So we're going to keep the recording going until we get to the questions at the end, and then we'll turn the recording off just so that we've got that kind of space and freedom to have a chat amongst each other. So as we move through as well, the kind of, I guess the format for this is going to be the next kind of 25 minutes, half an hour is going to be a bit of content delivery. So you're going to hear me talk a lot, and I apologize in advance for it. I will try and keep my voice up and full of life so that you stay awake. But if you do have questions as we go throughout, please just pop them in the Zoom chat and Siobhan will pick them up and we'll go through them at the end. But not just questions, any observations that you have, any thoughts that pop into your head, always happy to hear what you're thinking as we go through this. So for anyone that doesn't know SCVO, we're the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, the membership body for voluntary sector organisations across Scotland. A big part of what we do is supporting charities and social enterprises, anyone in the voluntary sector, with all sorts of queries and problems that they have. SCVO Digital sits within that, and it's really our focus is to think about how we enhance and improve digital inclusion across Scotland. So our remit's a little bit further than the voluntary sector. We also work with the public sector and have done a little bit of work with our friends in the private sector as well. So our focus is really on digital inclusion and helping to promote that message that digital inclusion is everybody's responsibility. So how do we get there? And how do we support each other to do that? But first things first, I'm really interested to know who's here. So just in the Zoom chat below, if you want to stick your name, your organization, and what you're hoping to get out of today's session, that would be great. And just while you're doing that, I'll give a bit of an overview of what we're looking at today. So there are really kind of three things that we're going to discuss today. The first thing is, what are the 5 essential digital skills for life? So we talk about these essential digital skills. The whole point of this is to kind of put across what that means in everyday life. So what do financial essential digital skills mean to me? What do they mean to you? And what do they mean to the people that you work with as well? So how do they apply to everyday life? How do we contextualize those essential digital skills and think about them in the context of our everyday lives? But lastly, and really importantly, how do we support people to boost and measure their essential digital skills? So what is it that they need in order, or what are the tools that we can use to support people to understand where they are in terms of their essential digital skills and measure and benchmark that? So a little bit of background, I guess, first, before we dig into those skills, is really trying to understand what is this framework that we're talking about and why is it important? So the essential digital skills, effectively, I think the best way to sum up what essential digital skills are to think about them as the skills that we need to navigate the internet in our day-to-day life. So the framework itself is supported by the UK Department for Education. It's regularly updated by a team of partners, and those partners include SCVO. The framework itself is what it says on the tin. So it's an outline of all of the skills that we need in the modern digital age. I think the best way to think about essential digital skills are as the building blocks that we work on. So if we have our essential digital skills, we can then start to think about the more sophisticated skills that we can build on top of that. Your essential digital skills are what you need for everyday life on the internet. So I think we can all agree that all of these skills are vitally important, but why does it actually matter that people have them? And I think it's really good to contextualize this in terms of the data and the information that we have. So just to think about that, 800,000 people, that's almost 20% of the population of Scotland, don't have any digital skills and can't use the internet. And by that, we mean they struggle to turn on a device, that they can't connect to the internet, and that digital is currently completely out with their skill set. 23% of those people who are offline said that they could, if they could access the right support, they'd be more encouraged to use the internet. So there's a really important point there about how we support people to get online and how they find that support and access it. 6.7 million people in the UK have ultra low digital engagement. So this means they're at risk of being left behind as services and opportunities become increasingly digitized. When we talk about digital engagement, we're talking about not just skills, but how people access the internet, how people access online. So what kind of devices are they using? What are the tools and apps that they're using to get online? This is the next one's a really important one in terms of thinking about the cost of living crisis and where we're all at the minute. So people online save on average £659 a year on goods and services compared to people who are offline. So people offline paying the best part of 700 quid a year more every year compared to people that are online. And lastly, people with impairments are 2.5 times more likely to have no digital skills compared to those people without an impairment. So I think the key thing to take away from this is not just chucking numbers at you that sound impressive, it's to think about it, digital exclusion as a far-reaching, very complex and quite intersectional inequality. It affects a lot more people than we think it does, and it affects them all in very different ways. And I think a really key part to starting to reduce this inequality is to think about how do we widen access to skills. I think there are a lot of ways that we can do that. So there are a lot of ways that we can think about how we make support a lot more approachable and easy for people to access. But it's important for us as support providers to understand what is the support that people actually need. And this is where the Essential Digital Skills Framework comes in. So this lovely graphic here is our Essential Digital Skills Framework. It is effectively what underpins digital inclusion skills support, not just across Scotland, but across the UK as well. Countries across the world have developed their own, but it all comes back down to those similar 5 skills that we'll talk about today. So to give a super quick rundown of the framework as it is at the moment, there are 5 key skills that everybody needs to navigate the internet. These skills are communicating, transacting, handling information and content, and problem solving. Those 4 skills are all underpinned by the 5th skill, staying safe, legal, and confident online. And as you can see in the middle of our little wheel here, we have at the heart of essential digital skills our foundation skills. So when we talk about foundation digital skills, we're talking about the absolute fundamentals of using a device. So these are things like turning the device on, for example, or using controls like volume, accessibility tools like increasing the font size, using the home screen in the desktop, connecting to Wi-Fi, and using and updating passwords. So the things that you absolutely need before you can start to think about what you're going to do next on a device. So over the next wee while, we're just going to examine the 5 main skills in a little bit more detail. So as you'll see as we go through, each skill has a set of tasks that users need to be able to demonstrate in order to get their full capability within a skill area. It's important to have a think about how these skills are kind of brought to the fore. So it's very much a cross-sector, cross-industry group of organizations and individuals that I guess not just decide, but work with organizations and people across the country to understand what is essential in this day and age. So over time, these skills have changed. So from, say, 2015, they have changed almost annually to reflect what is important to people now. As well as that, it's important to say that today we're looking at essential digital skills for life. There is also the essential digital skills for work framework, which we'll be looking at in a little bit more detail in our Understanding Workforce Digital Skills on the 9th of August. So definitely pop along to that if you're interested in thinking about it from a workforce perspective. But just to jump straight in, the first skill that we're going to look at is communicating. So communicating is one of those absolutely important skills that helps us stay connected with other people using technology. Communicating, I guess, is all about our ability to express and share and talk with friends and family, but also thinking about it from the perspective of a global community now, thanks to social network, and we can talk with people anywhere across the world. So in our day-to-day lives, communicating skills come in when we log into Facebook, post pictures of our holiday, or thinking about when you FaceTime your aunt that lives in Australia, that's a communicating skill. Commenting on an Instagram post, again, that is a communicating skill. If we find something funny online and we share the link with the group chat on WhatsApp, another communicating skill. And even things like logging into your email account and checking your emails. These are all communicating skills. So things that we do every day that reflect those essential digital skills. So communicating is one of those absolutely fundamental skills now, because we live in a world where we all keep in touch virtually. A really good example of when this skill was absolutely fundamental was during the pandemic. So how often did we need to keep in contact with people virtually because we couldn't do it physically? So without this, you lose a massive chunk of engagement with people in your day-to-day life, and it's why it's so important. The next skill I want to look at is problem solving. So very affectionately in the SCVO digital team, we refer to this as the just Google it skill, but it's actually a lot more than that. The internet gives us access to answers and knowledge on a scope that human history has never seen before. And it is such a powerful tool for personal capacity building. And that's really what problem solving is all about. So thinking about how we use it in our day-to-day lives, problem solving is when we use Google Maps to find a coffee shop that we've never heard of before, or one that's very, very prevalent in my life is using YouTube to figure out how to reset the pressure on a boiler because I don't know how to do it and I can't afford a plumber. Or even like being a little bit creative and thinking about how we use TikTok to find restaurant recommendations in a local area. It's all about how we use different sources to find the information that we need. So we need those problem solving skills in order to be able to use the internet to its full advantage. Think about the last time that you Googled something, whether that was yesterday or this morning or 10 minutes ago. That's problem solving. We all use it in the course of our everyday life. Without that skill, the internet wouldn't be as useful as it is to us. The next skill to think about is handling information and content. So this one, I have to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the name of this one because it doesn't really do what it says on the tin. But this is all about how we use the internet to access information and entertainment and save and store things that are important to us. So thinking about when we might use this in our day-to-day lives is things like fact-checking something on Twitter that we think might be fake news, for example, or just using Google to try and find the latest news or gossip about whatever scandal is breaking at the BBC this week, or when we log into Netflix and binge watch 6 hours of Downton Abbey, which I do quite regularly. It's keeping our chat history and our pictures backed up on the iCloud as well, which thank God WhatsApp does automatically because I don't know how to do that. But even things as well, like leaving a review for a restaurant that we really liked on Google. That is handling information and content, and it's sharing your opinion and letting other people know. So our lives, because they are largely online now, the photo albums of the past have been replaced with cloud storage. Knowing how to access this and being able to keep ourselves entertained and informed are absolutely crucial. And not to go back to the pandemic too much, but as an example of why digital inclusion is important, you don't get much better than COVID. What would a Tuesday night during the pandemic be without access to Netflix or Prime or anything like that that would make that whole experience just a little bit better? And I think it's important to think about that as well for the people that don't have this skill. How are they keeping themselves informed and how are they keeping themselves entertained? The fourth skill to look at is transacting. So transacting is about way more than how we use money online. It also relates to how we access important services, and it's about our ability to keep ourselves financially competent and confident online. So examples of times that we transact is thinking about nipping onto Moonpig, for example, because we forgot Gran's birthday and it's tomorrow and we need that really quick fix. Or it's anything that we order or access online that we pay for using an account. So buying a fridge, for example, or new glasses, or Netflix, again, to go back to, I'm not being sponsored, I promise, it's just on my mind. That is a transacting skill as well. But it's not just about money and spending money and kind of managing our money online, it's thinking about essential services. So registering to join a new GP practice is an example of a transacting skill. Changing our council tax details, again, a transacting skill. accessing those important services, and a lot of the time using forms to do it is about transacting. Lastly, as well, though, it's about things like checking your bank balance and managing transfers between accounts and thinking about how you manage your credit cards and those kind of things. Those are all transacting skills. And it's the internet that enables us to do that in a way that makes us feel a lot more confident in our financial lives. So now that our commerce is mostly digitally focused and everything has ease and convenience at the heart, it's become so important to be able to transact online in a way that's safe. But transacting skills are, like I've said, about so much more than handling money. It's about enabling people to have control over that money and have better options about how to manage it, more confidence and less stress in their financial lives. The data on this is really interesting, and it shows us that people who have those higher levels of digital engagement and better digital skills feel less stressed about money because they have more opportunities to manage it and understand it. The last skill I want to look at is staying safe, legal, and confident online. And this is the big one. So it kind of underpins everything we do online. We need to navigate the web with confidence so that we can stay legal and safe. But we know from experience and from conversations with digital champions and people that support people to get online that it can be the hardest skill to try and impart on a new learner. So it can feel very scary and overwhelming because it can feel a bit of fear-mongering, really. But when you think about it, we do a lot of this as second nature anyway. So things like updating our phones and our laptops so that they stay secure, that is a safety skill. Taking care with what we post and share on Facebook as well. Looking for the padlock when we visit a website to make sure that it's secure. And even things that are so deeply embedded in us we don't even think about. So like being wary about links that we don't trust that come in emails. That is a safety skill. I think we probably all have a lot that we could do to improve our approach to online safety. But I think one of the best ways to look at it is to think about it as the way you would look at your own personal and household safety. So things like locked doors and windows are just like passwords. They're there to keep intruders out. We also wouldn't, I would hope, express hurtful or prejudicial opinions in the town square. So why is it okay for us to do that on Facebook and Twitter? Contextualizing digital skills as real life skills are a really great way to help people learn and kind of break down that fear and feeling of how overwhelming online safety can be. That is a whistle-stop tour of those essential digital skills, but I really am interested to know which of those digital skills for you guys do you think is the weakest? I'm just going to pop a poll up and give you a quick minute to have a think about that. Of those 5 essential digital skills, which is it that you struggle with the most? And I think the point here is that while we all on this call are probably digitally competent and confident, there's so much changing so quickly that we need to stay on top of what we can and can't do. And I'm always curious with this about how the results will pan out, because there's 2 skills that I think people always struggle the most with, but really interesting to see some love for handling information and content there. So I think our kind of runaway winner at the minute is staying safe, legal, and confident online, which I guess probably doesn't come as a surprise to most people. I think it's that whole thing of it feeling quite overwhelming. Cybersecurity is one of those things that none of us are really experts in. But again, going back to that idea of breaking it down and comparing it to real life safety can help us think about it in a much different way. That was great. Thank you for that. So I'll just very quickly share those results so that you can see. So we had a 67% slide for staying safe, legal, and confident online as the one that is the weakest. Couple for problem solving there, which isn't surprising. We see that quite a lot in the data that we have on essential digital skills, but also handling information and content, getting a bit of love there. So I wanted to have a think as well, not just about trying to put across what essential digital skills are, but also how we might use them to support people and think about digital inclusion in a wider context. So one of the most useful tools that we have in our kit at SCVO is the Essential Digital Skills Checkup. This is based on the Essential Digital Skills framework, and it's really kind of a multi-purpose tool that we can use to support enhanced understanding of where your learners are at and how you can support them. So I guess the first thing to think about there is, well, why would we use a framework and a checkup to support our learners? What would be the value of that? And there's a couple of things I guess I would point out there. Firstly, it's a really great way to baseline skills. So what is the starting point for your learner? Where are they when you first meet them, and how are you going to measure that? The secondly, related, is about measuring impact. So what is the difference that you've made as a result of your intervention with upskilling? You'll be able to look in 6 months' time and say, you couldn't do that 6 months ago, but now you can, and here's the evidence. Again, it's a great way to track individual journeys. So it's a fair measure of how far your learner has come and that impact of your service. But thinking about it more broadly, it's also a great way to gather data. So for example, if you need to make a business case to senior leaders in your organization about the state of skills of your staff or the people that you work with, and you really need that evidence, this is a great way to collect that and say, this is why we need to invest. But it's also a really good way of providing a jumping off point for upskilling. So once your learner has kind of gone through the checkup, you can look at the results and say, I can see you're struggling with your problem solving skills. Why don't we have a think about this? Have you thought about, for example, using TikTok to find restaurant recommendations, which is my favorite digital skills tip of all time, by the way. So I thought what I would do really quickly is just give you a little tour of what the checkup looks like for anyone that hasn't seen it before. But it effectively looks like this. So you go to skills.checkup.scot, and this is what you're met with. It gives you an option for 3 different skills checkups. So you've got your foundation skills as number 1. As we discussed, those are the key fundamentals that people need. The life skills, which is what we're focused on today. So those everyday skills for navigating life in the digital age, and work skills as well. So those skills that everybody needs to be successful in the workplace. So we're going to take the life skills checkup today, and this is what it looks like. So as you work through it, all of the tasks that we were talking about that sit under those skills are represented here as questions that are nice. They're not just, I can't do this, I can't do that. It gives examples and it feels relevant to the people that use it. So as you go through it, there are 3 options for every question. I can do this, I can partially do this, and I can't do this. So if the user clicks, I can partially do this, or I can't do this, a little option comes at the bottom that says, I would like to learn more. And if they click that, that becomes relevant in what's kind of spat out at the other end for them, which I'll show you in a bit. It goes through this for all 5 areas of the Essential Digital Skills Framework so that you've got a real solid and kind of holistic understanding of where that user is in their journey. It gives you examples for each of the tools and apps that it's talking about as well. And the best part, my favorite part about it, is how personalized it is. So towards the end, this is what the result looks like. The checkup will give you an overall score. So you can see the person that completed this has 46% of all the skills they need. So just under half. So a really good place to start. Because it gives you this data in this kind of visualized way, you can instantly see where you can start with your journey with them and how you can support them to get online. So this person, for example, has 0% transacting skills. So is that conversation around digital skills then having a think about how are you going to support them with online banking? Or are you going to show them that they can pay their council tax online? Or are they not particularly interested in that? And you can look at areas where they're stronger, but also need improvement. So for example, you can see they've got 40% in communicating. So maybe it is that they don't understand that they can use WhatsApp to keep in touch with people. What is that hook that they need in order to get them more encouraged and thinking about being online? But another really cool part of the checkup as well is that once it has your results, it gives you bespoke resources. So the resources that are in the system are all curated by the SCVO digital team. So they're all from trusted sources. A lot of them are self-led. So if you have a learner that is particularly keen on teaching themselves how to do things, it's great for that. but it's also great for digital champions and workers who are supporting people, because it gives an opportunity to learn more about a subject area or use it as an example when we're taking people through that journey. There are a lot of resources that sit behind this, and they all correspond to different skills. But I think this is, definitely one of my favorite parts of the checkup, because it is bespoke and these are really well curated resources as well. So like I've said, you can find the checkup at skills.checkup.scot. We're currently reviewing it, as we do every year, to see how we can better improve it for organizations and individuals. If you have feedback on that, if you've used it before, we'd love to hear more and just have a think about how we can make that a better experience for you, for your users, and for anyone else, really. But definitely worth checking out. Just to kind of round us towards the end of the sermon aspect of this webinar, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we can use the Essential Digital Skills Framework as something that we can customize for our service and our service users. So the framework itself exists to give you an idea of what we think or what we know are the essential digital skills that everybody needs. But that is going to differ from service to service. And the interests of your service users are going to be different based on the kind of support that you're giving. So I wanted to talk a little bit about an organisation that some of you may know called Simon Community Scotland. For anyone that doesn't know them, they are a homelessness charity focused on person-centred support for people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. They have a really trailblazing approach to digital inclusion, and as part of this, they recognise that the Essential Digital Skills Framework is a great backbone for delivering support, but it could be used to its full advantage by ensuring that it meets the needs of the people who are using it. And there are really two groups of people that are using this. They're frontline workers in the first instance, and also their service users. So by understanding the need, again, I'm coming back to it, contextualize the skills within the framework, Simon Community have been able to develop their own tailored framework that focuses primarily on the apps and tools that develop skills more closely associated with their user needs. So not necessarily thinking about those tasks in isolation, but what are the tools that relate to those tasks that our users specifically need. So they worked really co-productively with staff and service users and identified those tools and apps. In doing so, that has given them an opportunity to properly understand what are the hooks that our service users need and how can we use those to encourage them online. And this is what it looks like. So you can find it at getconnected.simonscotland.org. And it's taken those 5 key skills and put them into a much more contextualized and relevant space. So now users and frontline workers within the service are much more able to find hooks and jumping off points. So for example, as opposed to transacting, Simon Community can support users to understand how digital can be an enabler for better financial confidence and competence. Again, coming back to contextualizing the framework. Contextualizing the framework for people so that you can understand how they want to use it and make sure that that skills journey is super relevant and useful for them. It's important to know that this can be applied to any sector or service. So just think about the different journeys that your users go on and put that into the context of the Essential Digital Skills Framework. You can adapt that to health and social care, to animal welfare, to any part of the sector that we work in. It's there, and it's there to be used and customized. So Simon Community is a fantastic example of that, of really taking something that works and making it work even better. And that's what we encourage and love about the work that we do here. Digital inclusion is person-centered. It relies very much on the person that is supporting and the person that is being supported. So customize and contextualize, I think, are my 2 key takeaways from today. But just, I guess, before we round up, I'm really keen that these webinars are not just about information delivery. It's about thinking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about all of this information we have now? So there are lots of options. There are lots of things that you can do now that you've got that kind of fuller understanding of what essential digital skills are. And here are some options. So first things first, have a chat with us. So we can help you think about how you can use the checkup for your learners and for your service users. whether that's to baseline or to measure impact over time, or maybe it is about that contextualization work and understanding how it fits better with your service. I would definitely recommend that you check out the checkup, see how it can be used for the people that you work with, and feed back to us. Let us know, does it work for you? And if it doesn't, why not? Thirdly, again, customizing and contextualizing the framework. So similar to what Simon Community did, how could you take that framework and make it more relevant to the people that you work with? And lastly, have a think about understanding the skills gaps within the context of the people that you work with, and what is it that you can do to kind of target that specific training for those people. Would love to know what you're going to do around essential digital skills, so please pop a comment in the chat, and we can pick up on that and have a talk about it. But again, like I said, SCVO Digital, Siobhan and I are here to have these conversations with you and just learn a bit more about what essential digital skills look like for you. So, shameless plug time, I'm afraid. We're hosting a series of digital inclusion masterclasses focusing on the different elements of digital inclusion. The point of this is to let you guys know, and the rest of the sector and beyond, that we're here to support you with digital inclusion. A big part of that is kind of making sure everybody understands those different important elements and components. At SCVO, we really do believe that digital inclusion is everybody's responsibility and that we all have a part to play. And hopefully by just kind of sharing information and knowledge about what digital inclusion is, we can start to make it a lot easier for everybody to get involved. So lots of different topics for us to look at. You can book online to any of these at scvo.scot/events. I look forward to seeing you there. But lastly, just before we finish up, we've got about 10 minutes left just to have a little conversation amongst us, any questions that you guys have on essential digital skills, and just have a think about what essential digital skills kind of look like moving forward. But I would be super grateful if you could just take 5 minutes to scan the QR code, which will take you to a form, just a very brief 4-question evaluation, which lets us know, do you like them? Do you not like them? How was it for you? It was great for us. But yeah, any feedback you have is always appreciated. So you can just scan that QR code and it'll take you straight to the form. But I am going to stop recording now so that we can have a wee chat.